You know what's cool? Fight night. Every night is fight night.
You're watching ESGN TV.
Welcome back to Fight Night.
All right, guys, we are in the map. We are getting everything just finished up in the lobby. The countdown is already going in the game for these players to begin. It's Select with Hasuabs versus Stefano in White Rock.
Yeah, exactly. It's gonna be Habitation Station. Once again, we'll be playing Habitation Station 3 times most likely tonight. And I'm very, very curious how it's gonna start. This map also maybe not as famous, but you can cannon very well on this map. So we might see something like that. I do believe it will be a bit harder with the probe micro that Select has to do then. And Hasu, of course, building the cannons. But yeah, I'm just curious what we're gonna see.
It should definitely be interesting, but here we are. We're in the map. Both teams here. Of course, in the top left position, we have our Protoss team, Hasuabs with Select, trying to prevent this game from going into the endless night against this team in the northeast, the Zerg team with Stefano and White Raw.
Yeah, and Stefano playing on a barcode account wants to keep his identity hidden, but that doesn't work for us because we all know that he actually is Stefano. Not sure what's happening now, but yeah, it just seems to be opening up with a pylon in base, so most likely gonna be a gateway expand from Hasu and Select. Meantime, we're most likely gonna see a pull first from Stefano. He is one of the guys that likes to play it safe. If you know that you can always win if you get to the late game, of course you're gonna play it safe. You're gonna get the pull, you're gonna get the safety links, you're gonna get the early roach warrant. And this is what we have seen Stefano do time after time after time. And he won a lot of tournaments with it, and with those tournaments, a lot of money.
I think the key word, what you just said, late game. I have no doubt in my mind that the last thing Stefano wants is for this game to end quickly. We had a great shot of the strategizing becoming, both players working together. Of course, we don't have anything happening yet, but that spawning pool that you mentioned is on the way, so no greedy hatch first type play. And how do you actually feel that this stacks up against this gateway opening that Hasuabs is going for? I feel like a lot of Zerg players would prefer to get the hatchery first if they know it's gateway.
Yeah, I completely agree. Normally, when you're playing against the gateway expand, you don't see a scout. A lot of Zergs will get this hatch first, but Stefano, like I mentioned earlier, he wants to play it safe. He knows what's up, and he's gonna just get the hatchery after the pool, and most likely gonna go into a third hatch. However, the build that Hasuabs is doing is a 1 gas gateway expand, most likely going into 3 or 4 gate pressure. We will see this after the third gate goes down. If he gets gas after the third gate, it will be a 3 gate pressure. If he gets another gate after the third gate, it will be 4 gate pressure.
Yeah, 4 gate pressure is a pretty strong build to deal with, and we see that the gas is being taken by Stefano. It can be very difficult to hold off those heavy pressure without speedlings, without roaches, and it's mostly about being aware. And we see now Hasuabs checking the gold base, making sure there's no crazy shenanigans going on as far as greed is concerned. The probe here is in the natural. The Overlord will see it, so they'll know it will at least expand. It won't be anything too crazy.
Yeah, and we see the first links coming out from Stefano right now. So this will be the first move that White Raw will be able to make in this game, is controlling those links, getting the watchtowers, scouting around for those nasty probes. Mothership Core coming out, 21 Nexus as standard for Protoss nowadays when they open up Gate Expand. Warp Gate coming after the Mothership Core, maybe not as standard. Sometimes you'll see the Warp Gate earlier, sometimes you see the Mothership Core earlier. Hasu in this case opting for that Mothership Core.
Yep, now these Zerglings are going out, so he'll get that scouting information as we've already talked about. He kind of knows what's happening at the moment, so it's more about the map pressure. If he can deny probes from getting around the map, putting any pylons anywhere. Zergling speed is just now beginning, and he does have a probe actually patrolling the front just for, I guess, getting ready to build his wall later up. And the Mothership Core does poke away one of the Zerglings. There's still another one, and White Raw just wants to. You want to keep an idea of where the Protoss opponent is on the field. I think the pylons, if just one probe slips by, it can mean a world of difference when they decide to attack you.
Oh, and great scout coming in from Stefano. Wants to see how many gates are gonna go down, and I think it's gonna be 3 gates. Is there a second gas already in the main base for Hasuabs, is what I'm wondering. I do believe there is one, so it's most likely just going to be 2 or 3 gas. Yeah, there is a second gas, and it was very early, so it's not going to be a committed pressure. It actually might still be an earlier third base, let's say 7-minute third base, but I'm all wrong once again, and it's just going to be a Stargate. Thank you, Hasuabs, for making me look a bit dumb.
It's really funny to consider as well that they've kind of been thinking this strategy out. So with this Stargate on the field, we've already seen White Raw spreading the Zerglings out around the map. He's looking pretty closely for the proxy pylons in case there's any type of pressure, as we talked about, coming forth on this field. Gas in the natural being taken as well by Haswabs and Select. And this game has just been, I guess, progressing at a rather normal pace. This isn't really too different from something that we'd see in a typical StarCraft 1v1 match.
Yeah, exactly. Speed just finished, so those Zerglings will be very quick. I don't think Select wants to move on the map in the upcoming, let's say, 2 or 3 minutes. He will be able to control the Phoenixes very well, and well-controlled Phoenixes will be able to do a lot of damage. Not only are they able to shoot down Overlords, they also will be able to lift Queens if they're not in position, and snipe drones that go into the extractors if Stefano opts to only get 1 Spore Crawler. And even with 2, you can always get a few drones. Quite a few links out on the map already, so he's feeling a bit scared. Some nice control coming out of Hydra, of course, and yeah, I do believe the first Phoenix is out on the map on the hunt for Overlords. You see Grubby talking with the MVP or a little bit, and nice force field coming down from Select right there.
Yeah, just trying to stop the Zerglings from getting through with just the Sentry to block. Pretty weak. This Overlord somehow managed to escape the wrath of those Phoenix, at least for now. Continuing to hunt, just wants to deny the Zerg player that map vision, really, and it's not too much micro to really be done with the Phoenix this early in the game, but he's given him something to play with at least. Select hasn't really been doing too much, whereas at least White Raw, he can kind of run the Zerglings around on the creep if you're bored.
Yeah. And yeah, we do see Select controlling the Phoenixes. Actually, will he lift that link? No, he decides not to. I think he missed 1 Overlord, like you mentioned. That Overlord is the lucky one. It got away. Overlord speed just finished, so Stefano's playing it extremely safe. Wants to know everything that is going on. Ranged attack upgrades coming out, most likely for those Swarmos, as well of course for the Roaches. 7 more drones in production. I think this is the 2nd Spore that is coming down, and a Robo Bay for Hasselhoffs. Select doing a great job picking off drones left and right, and the lair is coming down.
Yeah, the lair is underway. No, third base hasn't just really started mining yet. Doesn't manage to pick up the Queen here. They're trying to spread that creep out, of course, and might be able to grab 1 or 2 of them. She continues to move. He's lifting up as many of the Queens as possible. This is not bad if he can kill these off. The Spore Crawler is moving down, but I don't think he'll get in position. But he should be able to pick this Queen off, and he does. Yeah, so nice little grab here for Select.
Yeah, nice micro by Select. 1 Phoenix completely in the red, and White Raw making his way over with a few Roaches. I'm not sure what White Raw's gonna do with those, but that those might get picked up or even worse, force fielded in. And if you don't have any Roaches in the event, Stefano will need to build new ones, and that's not what he wants at this point. He wants drones.
Yeah, I have to say one of the things I really like as he tries to press in here, trying to focus actually the sentries behind the Zealot, does pick off 1 of them. The 2nd sentry is safe with that Immortal there, but I really like how this build order that was picked by Haswabs and Select really allows Select to utilize all of his attention on those Phoenix very well. There's always somewhere you can poke in with the Phoenix, grab a drone here, they of course pick up those Queens as we'd mentioned. It's something that in a normal 1v1 can be almost like a risk if you spend too much time looking at your Phoenix.
Yeah, exactly, and we do see a few more gates coming down for Hasu, so he might be going for a little bit of push, but actually there's the probe putting down a pylon. However, he isn't producing any more probes yet, so might still be faking to take a 3rd or a 3rd cancel even. Not too sure about that. In the meantime, at Stefano's base, Infestation Pit just finished, so I think we all know what we're gonna see here, and it's gonna be the guys that are gonna extend this game for quite some time.
Well, there it is, the Enduring Locusts upgrade. We know Stefano likes his long games, and as you said, he had a pretty interesting, looked like a 2 Immortal, 2 Colossi setup. This range attack, of course, going to be completing very soon, or the range upgrade, excuse me. But with the 3rd base on the way, he kind of has this potential backup plan, or at least the ability to maybe cause a bit of a ruse with the information available. Select grabbing another Queen, not able to get it just yet. He's kind of still playing within the range of these spores, but finds a sweet spot, and that's just, I think he's killed like maybe 3 or 4 Queens this game?
Yeah, I think 4 Queens is the number that we're looking at right now, and some great control coming out of Select. Of course, only having to look at those Phoenixes is a big plus, and here they come, the boys that are gonna go underground, the original hipsters, the Swarm host. They are, this is gonna be a very long game, ladies and gentlemen. Get some popcorn, get some chips, get some whatever you like when you have to spend a lot of time watching something that you enjoy, but this is gonna take some time.
Yeah, we're seeing Select start to move out on the map a bit more. This, I think, is probably the best opportunity to have right as they come out, before they all get situated or all get synchronized with their locust waves. If you wanted to attack, this would probably be the only opportunity that you have before the late game hits. And we don't actually have an observer with this force, so he's stepping onto the creep, a bit dangerous. The locusts do get the speed boost, so he needs to be careful with how far he approaches, because he also can't place any further pylons for reinforcements.
Yeah, and in the background we did hear Hasu giving some orders to Select on how to move the army. Here comes the Mothership Corps finally catching up with the army, so he will be able to recall out, and he really needs this observer to deny the creep. Here comes the first prism as well, and prisms are very important.
And we also see Zergling force in the southwest. White Raw might be trying to bring in a bit of an assault. That's kind of interesting. Of course, White will be controlling the direction that these locusts move in. So it needs to be very, it's one of the communication keys, I think, knowing where to send them to defend the bases from the potential harassment, while also being aggressive yourself. But like you said, that War Prism completing soon. A Dark Shrine is on the way. Blink, +2 attack. +2 is just finishing for our Zerg team. And now the Vipers come out. But these Zerglings do squeeze into the middle line, forcing some Zealot Warp-ins and picking off a little bit of the economy of Select.
Yeah, and Hazu won't be too happy with this. Select has to move back with his complete army. Finally getting picked off by the Locust right now, and the first 3 Vipers on the map. And once Vipers get on the map, it's gonna be a bit harder to kind of shark around the map like Select has been doing, because you don't want to lose 1 or 2 Colossi against the mighty long tongue of the Viper.
No, you do not. You know, Stefano's impression of the Viper might not have been enough for White Raw, but I think White Raw's control of the unit should match up just fine. So he needs to be very careful with the positioning of his forces. Just more and more coming out. +3 attack. This, by the way, the upgrade timings have lined up ridiculously well for Stefano, not really missing a beat with how fast he was able to get the hive. So these locusts will really pack a punch with just how much raw damage they do.
Exactly, and first Prism making his way over to the main base of Stefano right now. I do believe Hasu has to warp in, and then Select can control the units warp in, but Hasu should not forget to actually warp in those units. A little bit of an engagement in the middle of the map, taking down 1 more pylon. Select doing a good job denying the creep spread. In the meanwhile, in the main base of Stefano, we do see a little bit of a drop. 3 Zealots won't be able to do too much against those 7 Queens and 4 Crawlers, so that would be no problem at all for White Raw to defend.
Yeah, a good use of static defense for this purpose. And there's still a couple Dark Templar that have been warped in here and there. I don't think he's been able to do too much with them, but these waves of Locusts, they're being exactly where they need to be. White Raw paying good attention and not really allowing Select to move around the map that freely. And this is I think, one of the cool things about this macro-micro setup. Select's trying to block the base with the Dark Templar, but all White Raw needs to do, just pay attention to where Stefano's spreading the creep, where the army steps on, and never allow Select to move forward. He has his eyes on basically this train of Locusts moving out almost the entire time.
Yeah, however, I would like him to use the Vipers a bit more, maybe together with the Queen, so it won't get sniped by the Phoenixes, but yeah, this is just looking great for the White Raw Stefano combo, I would say. They're getting into the late game, and this is where Stefano really shines. The late game is where he belongs, the late game is where he lives, and I think we're in for a very long ride.
Yeah, this game doesn't show any signs of slowing down. The Dark Templar being used defensively, of course. See them helping to secure that southwest 4th base. No gold actually attempted yet by either player. So the heavy resources might end up just being saved as that last vestige of economy for that late game. Even getting Burrow now so it can move around some of the other units underground aside from just those Swarm Hosts. Double Spire is on the way, so you might even see some sort of Swarm Host Broodlord Sieger and maybe some type of Mutalisk Harass.
Yeah, maybe he's preparing the Muta switch. Muta switch has been becoming more and more popular lately on the ladder as well as on tournaments. You see the big 50 Muta Remax. Oh, but Asu already preparing for this with a triple Stargate, getting the air upgrades as well as the fleet beacon. So those might be for Tempest. Actually, I'm pretty sure they will be for Tempest, but it's of course also great to have this against a potential Muta switch.
Yeah, just having the Stargates available, the utility being able to switch between the Tempest, which can do reasonably well, versus this mass static defense turtle style, but also, of course, the Mutalisk switch that you mentioned. And it's kind of been interesting, some players have been mixing in even carriers you've seen recently in some of the matches to try to deal with the style, but he's actually pressing up into this ramp by the 4th base here. Some Blinding Cloud slowing this army down. Queen's dropping the transfuses. He does have the Mothership Quarter recall, but he needs to be very careful with his posturing, and those Locusts are really chewing apart this army. He can't push through those Spine Crawlers.
A little bit of a lag spike that, but that won't stop Stefano from making more and more Swarm. 6 more on the way. 5th base going down, or is it? Yeah, the 5th base going down for Hazuops took the gold earlier, or no, actually he is taking the gold right now. More upgrades coming in, Storm as well as the second shield upgrade. So yeah, this is, even though Hydra and Stefano kinda stabilized, I still feel like Hazops is in a good spot as well. Up one base, doesn't have a bank too big, but it's not looking horrible for him.
Yeah, I really think it comes down to, as this game goes on longer and longer, who can be more cost effective, right? That's what it's all about, and that's where the Locust and the Swarm host specialize. The Locust, I mean, pretty much free. We have the Storm, of course, which can help if he wants to try to drop the Storms, of course, on any Corruptors that maybe come out to deal with the Colossi. But it's also, of course, good to have the Templar to feed back those Vipers. They're really the #1 thing that keeps you from getting too close to those Swarm hosts. Even the Tempest can't get that close when there's enough Vipers in good spots.
Exactly, and we do see Select doing a great job denying the creep, and denying the creep is extremely important. Once the Zerg gets the middle of the map, especially on this map, with creeps, spores, swarm hosts and vipers, it's very, very hard to break it. We saw one carrier in production, but Hazu quickly changing his mind because carriers are horrible, and he's probably gonna opt for Tempest.
He's slowly trading the supply out. Doesn't have that much space. The carrier actually does start up again in the production tab. Pushing forward again, puts the Storms onto the Swarm host, actually taking out quite a bit of the hit points in them. The Queens are moving forward once again. He's laid the Time Warp preemptively to prevent waves of Locusts from reaching his army. I think he wants her to snipe this base and maybe recall out, but it's still a really risky proposition as the Swarm host wave from the north comes in. I kind of like the way that White Rot has split the Swarm hosts up to not only defend his expansions, but flank the army if he manages to get a good position on that base.
Yeah, and at the moment I think Hazops is making a huge mistake by getting carriers. Carriers aren't good at anything, so why would anyone ever build them is my question. And we do see the third shield upgrade coming down, as well as the +2 melee upgrades and the carapace, and the carapace for the air and the attack for the air upgrades. Creep threat still being denied, so Select is doing a great job, but I'm not sure what the carriers will bring to the table, especially if there's already air upgrades on the way.
Yeah, I'm to be perfectly honest, Curious is not the most explored area of the Protoss versus Zerg matchup. Just one way of trying to deal with this mass swarm host style, and I really like that he actually even has the observer speed. You can keep him with the army faster, trying to clear up the creep tumors. Because I have to say, the speed boost that the Locusts get, if you keep that creep back, it's so much harder to get positions. These Zealots trying to run by towards the southeast base, the waves of Locusts come out immediately, taking out quite a few of their hit points and actually just killing them all.
And Hazel's army doesn't look scary at all, but that's because there's 4 carriers in production and also a lot of supply, as well as those phoenixes. I would like to see him sacrifice those phoenixes, actually. Those phoenixes don't really bring much to the army, except maybe lift a few queens or lift a few swarmos. I think they could be put to better use right now. In this stage of the game, it's a bit later and they don't do too much anymore. And I think Select might be just doing that. Yeah, here we go, sacrificing the phoenixes, trying to get most of them still. Actually, he does pick up a swarmo, so that's good for him, but I don't think they'll be able to do that much more.
No, we do have 4 carriers on the production tab. The longest building unit in the game, basically. So it's still going to be a little bit longer before we get them onto the map. But with the additional upgrades, I think it's the +2 attack coming in for the carriers and the +3 shields. Now that he's secured the gold base, how do you really trade with carriers versus this army? I'm still worried about the abducts.
Yeah, I'm very worried about the abducts. I'm very worried about the fungals on the interceptors as well. You can be very far ahead, and then if you keep on getting your interceptors fungal, they actually stop shooting and they kind of just fall down. You lose all your minerals, and yeah, I think Tempest would have been a little bit better, but Hazu opting for the carrier, so he must have something with him, because I haven't seen this before.
Yeah, very interesting to see how Select a Terran player utilizes this unit. You'd think Protoss players barely use carriers. I can't imagine Select ever does.
Well, I think Select has about as much experience with carriers as I have and Hazu, because I don't think anyone ever uses them. So in that regard, we're all equal. But yeah, maybe Select will show us how to do it. I'm surprised, pleasantly surprised, because it means that Hazu maybe has a good solution.
Yeah, typically speaking, you wouldn't try something like this unless you had some success with it in one way or another prior. But 3/3 air upgrades are on the way, so I like this. We haven't really seen many air units from Stefano Whiteraw, but he's been keeping that option on the table by getting the upgrades for them. If he needs to make Corruptors, if he needs to make Mutalisks, they'll be as strong as possible in that scenario, and I think that's important to keep, at least keep it possible.
Stay tuned for more Fight Night.
ESGN TV, just watch.
Watch me play on Fight Night here on ESGN TV.
Fight night. Better than sex.
We see everything. Fight night.
You know what's cool? Fight Night.
Oh shit.
Welcome back to Fight Night.
The thing to note is, as long as Stefano gets all of the bases saturated and mined out in the end, he will be ahead in minerals because his army is way more cost effective. We can already see it that Hazu is on 6 bases and he doesn't have the same bank.
The tribe has spoken.
Super Mini
Super
was
Mini.
forced out of the game. Poor Super
He has
Mini
been rejected from the body of this game.
just wanted to watch a nice game of StarCraft and then get kicks out of the tribe. He will not be allowed back in, Mr. Super Mini. And those trades look, well, they don't look decent for Select, but you think, well, I'm doing a great job killing the Locust.
It
but
feels good to kill stuff, but then you're like, it's not worth anything.
yeah, it's free.
There's just more of them coming, and we
Yeah.
see 10 spine crawlers, 2 spores. He's going to get almost every single upgrade in the game. Adrenal glands. I'm not really sure how much more of a part Zerglings play until he kills everything, but the carriers have been stacking up to pretty heavy numbers on the left side, and I actually wonder how many infestors are on the field. Does he even have any corruptors? If there's so much supply,
just has 40.
he just has 40 swarmos. So this actually provides a really nice opportunity because it's just the spore crawlers that he has to deal with. If he pushes with these 10 carriers and just blindsides him, I mean, he'll still, of course, have the opportunity with his larva bank to try to max on the corruptors, but this gives a really nice chance for Select and Hatsuab to just abuse the lack of information that Stefano has. They simply don't know that there's 12 carriers sitting in the back.
Yeah, exactly. And with those +3 upgrades, it will be very helpful as well. Select trying to pick away at those static defenses, loses a Colossi, but for that one Colossi, a new carrier can be built. So the carrier stack will get bigger and bigger over time. Always losing units, actually adding in a few corruptors. This is a great move.
Here it comes. The carrier fleet beginning to make its way across the map. Known only as well, I guess you would say typically a 4v4 strategy.
Yeah.
It may just be the answer. Maybe just what
And even-
Haswabs and Select need for this game.
Even in 4-on-4, carriers are still horrible, guys. Don't make them. We're gonna see how Select will control them right now, and I can bet your ass that Stefano is like, whoa, he has like 12 carriers. What's up with this? 2 Void Rays on the way. I really like this move. The thing with those Void Rays is, wow, 7 more Stargates by the way, but against the Corruptors, carriers are okay, but Void Rays are way more supply efficient, and what you really need is supply efficiency. Storming his own Locust, or his own Interceptors and own carriers there for a little bit, but this is actually going to be quite scary. Only 12 Corruptors against 12 carriers, and
Are carriers that bad, Harson?
carriers are bad, but I don't think they're this bad. Oh, actually an aggressive move from White-Ra, trying to maybe sacrifice a few of the Swarm hosts. I'm wondering how many Vipers are on the map. I don't think there was any, only those 40 Swarm hosts. So
I like trying to attack some of that supply. It seems like he's purely committed to the air. As soon as he loses supply, we see Void Rays begin. 7 Photon Cannons, of course, try to defend this base, but he has something like 11 Stargates. He can almost instantly remax on just Void Rays or carriers again after he loses his army, and he's still warping in Templar, Dark Templar, and High Templar. He might, I don't know if he's a War Prism anywhere, if he's just building more Archons. But this carrier fleet is actually pressing through these the Spore Crawlers without too much trouble. They have a lot of damage output with that many Interceptors.
yeah, and I think Azu is showing us how it's done. Carriers as well, oh my god, 4 DTs killing all of the Swarmos, but this does allow for more Corruptors. He actually would have loved those Swarmos to be there. Great Storms going down on the Corruptors, as well as on the Interceptors. So once the Interceptors will get fungled, we will need to rebuild those, but if we take a look at the bank, it's a huge difference right now.
Yeah, it's pretty scary. There's a very large amount of gas available for Stefano and White Raw, but that can really only turn into the infestors. And just doing the damage, I think you probably made a good point about trying to get the interceptors at least, because the carriers have a lot of hit points. The fungal growth doesn't do that much damage, but now the corruptor's moving in, the storms are being laid under them, and we're seeing these carriers drop pretty quickly, but dropping even faster is the supply of the storms doing a great job of thinning out this corruptor count. Sadly though, carriers don't trade too well versus them. He's relying purely on the storm to keep these units alive.
Yeah, exactly. But at the back of this, we see 10 Void Rays being built at the same time. 8 more in production right now, as well as 1 more carrier. And if we take a look at the supply, it's a 50 supply deficit, even 80 supply deficit for Stefano and White Raw.
I mean, in the meantime, White Raw's done a great job. He's cleaned up the south center base. He's also cleaned up the center base on the left side of the map. So he's been doing a pretty good job with this. I like the way that White Raw's been saying, okay, well, Stefano's kind of microing his spore crawlers, which it kind of feels weird, you know, the macro micro aspect, but it's been very very weird game.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what White Raw's doing with all those swarmos across the map right now. He lost quite a few there against the Void Rays, but yeah, it's doing a nice job, I guess, cleaning up the cannons. It's always at least get something from it.
And giving chase, using the Void Rays on these swarm hosts. We still produce a lot of carriers and Void Rays, but with this huge gas bank, we're seeing mostly infestors and vipers come out. So the question, Harston, becomes how many infestors does it take to stop an army of mass Void Ray carrier?
Well, how many infestor did it take for Stefano to win 200k? I think that's how many he's gonna need right now to stop all of those carriers, because those carriers look scary, and 16 Void Rays. Void Rays, however, have the tendency to clump up, so if you get a few good fungal growths off, that might turn the game around, but he will need to trust on them clumping the Void Rays.
Well, he also trust White Raw's ability to throw those fungal growths. You can't really imagine, you know, it's a certain type. You placing them kind of like force fields, really, or I guess storms. You would try to place the fungals like. But he's pressing into this space. Look at all these vipers pulling in the Void Rays, and the Void Rays kind of like, okay, well, we're here. Now they're taking out the infestors.
Look at the fungal though. Look at that fungal. All of them being fungled right now, but he forgot to actually fungal again. White Raw slipping up a little bit, well, a lot of it, and GG being called.
Able to overpower the mass static defense army.
It was a pretty fun game to watch. We managed to end it before the night was over, as it were, with so many swarm hosts. Do you think is 40 the sweet spot number? Or is it a little bit too much?
I don't think you can ever have enough swarm hosts. If you would be able to get 400 supply, I think you would like get 120 swarm hosts. Just get as many swarm hosts as you can, and more static defense. Maybe 4 or 5 vipers and a few queens, and I think we're going to be throwing it over for an interview with Frodo and with the winners right now.
Congrats, guys. How do you feel right now, Hasu?
Very good, but exhausted. As expected, it took very long to beat Team Stefano there.
I don't think if you know this, but I think this is one of the first times in over 2 years that Carriers has won a game in televised StarCraft 2, and you guys are the ones to do it. Select, how does that make you feel?
It's really good. I don't know about PBZ, but Swarm Host is really hard to deal with.
You think?
I think, yeah. And I think you need really good micro with it, like to save your ground unit. And just you said, carriers, you don't see them often, but I feel good to win with those units.
Yeah, I think people are very surprised in a good way that you were able to control Protoss units so well. So maybe you chose the wrong race.
I think so too.
All right, thank you guys so much for tuning in to tonight's festivities. Tomorrow, the action continues. Our 8 players return to make new teams of 4 to play in Snipers Pro Mod. Don't miss it. I've been Nathanius, and this is Harston. We'll see you guys tomorrow night.